Welcome, everybody, this Wednesday afternoon to this investor info session with Natalie Archibald, who will be joining us shortly. But me, I wanted to say more importantly, but let me not gas myself up like that. And me as well, Nema Rimba. I am a program manager here at Spring. And I will be your host for today's short and sweet info session. And so we are so excited to have you here and promise to keep it short and sweet so you can get back to your Wednesday vibe, whether that's cozying up with family or treating yourself to a cocktail to fend off those also midweek blues. And so here's the game plan for today. We'll kick things off with a quick but warm welcome to set the tone. And then in a little bit, we'll give you a sneak peek at the program with a high level overview of what to expect and how it all works. But wait, there's more. We'll be joined by the amazing Natalie Archibald, who will be sharing some golden insights, followed by a Q&A where you'll have the floor to ask all your burning questions. And last but definitely not least, I'll take you through a deeper dive of some of the key things you should keep in mind. Don't worry, this part is optional since it's also covered in the program pack. Like I said, we're here to make this session insightful and valuable, but short and sweet. So let's dive right in. However, first, customary shout outs because it takes a village, am I right? So at Spring, we have a very bold but simple mission to change the world through innovation. And so to be able to do this, we partner with various organizations that I would like to take a quick minute to shout out. This program comes to you courtesy of the Women and Non-Binary Impact Network for Venture Capital, a mouthful. WinVC for short, through Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. Thank you as well to some of our supporters and community partners you can see on our screen. We deeply thank you for helping making this program possible. We also now welcome you to share your name, where you're joining us from, and perhaps drop a link to your LinkedIn or business website in the chat for other folks to connect with you. And so that quick program overview that I promised, invest together in women-led impact. So women founders in Canada are vastly underestimated and underfunded, receiving only 2.3% of venture capital funding. Yep, 2.3%. I know, I gasped, it's obscene. We need to change it. And so, with that, it's beyond time for women and non binary funders to get equal investment in their startups. And bearing that in mind, the Women Led Impact Investor Challenge, now Invest Together in Women Led Impact, was created as a value packed program empowering purpose driven founders to prepare their impact businesses for investment from like minded, supported impact investors like yourselves. Spring has thoughtfully designed a program that addresses the unique challenges women founders face as they raise funds, while also bringing together a community excited to see those founders win. We like to win here. And so, looking at the program format, we typically receive around 80 plus applications from our founders, with our last program attracting over 120 applicants. These then get narrowed down to a top 15 companies by our selection committee, then further distilled down into 5 finalists by the investors participating in the program. The program will also include 20 to 25 investors who pre-commit to invest a pool of a minimum of $100,000 to the winning companies. These investors will walk through weekly sessions alongside the founders and will be responsible for conducting due diligence for the top 5 companies. The program itself will consist of 9 weekly sessions that will distill the top 15 to a top 5 and finally to a winner. All this will involve valuable, action-oriented content with impact investing leaders in Canada, research and networking opportunities. In the end, this will culminate in one direct investment, but of course, many winners. More on that shortly. And so when you're like, why should I? What is the value of participating, Nema? Why should I engage in this? Let's dive into the incredible value of participating in a program like Invest Together. So today, with our guest speaker, we'll explore this in depth, but a quick overview to spark your excitement, get you a little bit hyped up. In general, angel investing feels like a solo journey, and it's siloed with limited collaboration, which is exactly why angel groups and networks have grown in popularity. Invest Together offers you a unique opportunity to experience the power of collective investing. Think of it as a sneak peek into what it's like to be part of a connected, collaborative community of investors. Through this program, you'll not only have hands on due diligence training, but also access to a curated selection of high quality companies pre vetted by our selection committee. This means that you can be confident that the deal flow you see is worth your time and consideration. And if you're eager to keep the momentum going after the program, you can also explore membership with the Spring Collective, our national impact investor network. It's your gateway to exclusive resources, events, webinars, and ongoing monthly deal flow opportunities designed to help you continue deploying capital into ventures that really align with your values. But beyond the deals, Invest Together is about the people. You'll join a diverse cohort of investors, each bringing unique perspectives and experiences like to the table. This diversity then in turn fosters learning in unexpected, inspiring ways and opens doors to building lasting relationships within this vibrant community. And here's the cherry on top. Investors increasingly want to connect with the entrepreneurs behind the companies they're backing. This program is the perfect platform to make those connections, offering the rare chance to not just invest in ventures, but in the people driving those companies forward. Now, that was a lot of gabbing. And so I'd like to take a quick minute back so that I can invite our guest speaker here today, and they will be able to share a little bit more about their experience, like the highs, the lows, everything in between, what exactly you need to get to a yes and get pumped about supporting some of these amazing, amazing women-led ventures. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce Natalie. Natalie is a people and culture executive with 20 years of experience across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Her career spans role as a clinical counselor, executive coach, retail and tech leader, and a nonprofit director. Passionate about social impact, activism, and values-driven leadership, Natalie fosters inclusive workplace cultures where both people and business thrive. She holds a master's in counseling psychology and is completing a doctorate in leadership studies. As a public speaker, community activist, and angel investor, Natalie proudly supports female and non-binary led ventures and is here today to tell us a little bit more about that journey. A delightful welcome to you, Natalie.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Nema and Spring. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Like I mentioned, endeavoring to keep this short and sweet. And so I have 3 to 4 questions for you, and eager to get this show on the road. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as an investor?
Absolutely. Well, you did such a wonderful job highlighting my career. It feels like that was a different person you were chatting about. But one of the things that is unique about my career, and probably very similar to other people listening, is that I landed in my role as an executive of people and culture, or HR, in a very unusual way. So my earlier career was spent in the nonprofit sectors and in the clinical fields in mental health care. And so through those experiences, as well as through my personal experiences as a first generation Canadian, a child of 2 immigrants, I have a very strong sense of values, and I choose my career moves as a result of my values. And so eventually that led me to take on the people and culture portfolio at a company called Clio. And Clio is a tech unicorn, centaur, highly successful Canadian venture. And in that experience, I became increasingly interested in the venture capital world. And I wanted to learn a little bit more about the investor side, as opposed to my side as an executive within the business. And when I came across this opportunity, it felt to me like the perfect opportunity that aligned my values with my learning and development interests and the way that I wanted to grow my own personal skill set. And for me, when I left my last role at Clio and was thinking about my next role, it was really important to me to think about, I was in the interview process, and every every cap table I came across with these venture backed companies, they all kind of looked the same. And so for me, it was really an opportunity to also put my money where my mouth is and to change the face of entrepreneurship by supporting and taking a chance on female and non-binary founders who were also deeply connected to my values and my investment thesis. And for me, it was an opportunity to hopefully encourage the next generation of entrepreneurship to look a little different, and make an impact in the world beyond just myself. So that's why I joined. That's a little bit about my career background that sort of led me to this opportunity.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for walking us through that. I think like one thing that jumped out at me was the element of values like being weaved through like your experiences and then getting you to here where you're at.
Mhm.
And I think it's definitely something we see a lot of with investors who are looking to balance that profit and purpose. A lot more of their values like showing up and then showing up insofar as who they invest, but who they choose to support beyond like that paycheck
Mhm.
in very many other ways.
Yes.
And I think it's really beautiful to see kind of like that evolution as people go through their lives, like, taking that step back and being like, this is what is important to me. This is how it's going to inform like our next steps.
Mhm.
This is how we change the face of investment. This is how we
Mhm.
change the face of innovation. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then my next question here, and I think you've kind of touched in it, but you can share a little bit more. Then what influenced your decision to join the women-led Impact Investor Challenge, Now Invest Together?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I said, I was in the position where I had left my last job. I was intentionally taking a bit of a sabbatical to really address, my own needs to really manage burnout before looking at my next venture. And as I was in the interview process, I really, like I mentioned, just started to notice that the types of founders I were interviewing with, the investors that backed those businesses, they all had very similar profiles, which were very, to me as a woman and to me being part of a family where I understand what it's like to also be a newcomer. It was really important to me to want to make an impact in investing in the future of what founders could look like, so that when, for example, my daughter is out looking for a job or wanting to start her own business, she sees more people that look like her
Mhm,
in the space. And
mhm,
so it was really that personal impetus that led me to want to invest more in female founded ventures or non-binary founded ventures, particularly because they align to my social purpose values personally. But on the flip side, being a head of HR at a tech company, it was also an incredible learning opportunity for me to understand the investor side of the equation and to go really deep into understanding that so I could also perform better in my job as an executive. So I
mhm,
feel like that is ultimately what led me to choosing the company that I'm at now, where we do have a founder that has a non-traditional background who is part of a historically excluded group. We are a company that also focuses on an audience and really changing the face of entrepreneurship through our customers. And so for me, it really it led to a lot more purposeful and intentional work,
mhm.
and it was just an incredible experience.
When you say that, I feel like I see, when people say kind of like representation matters, who's at the table like matters, I definitely see that like through your
Mhm.
example, because as you were interacting with these people, based on your vantage point, it was very clear to you like, hey, I'm noticing a pattern here, and this
Mhm.
pattern seems like all these folks seem to fall like in one like group. Many times they so very similar like profiles, and so with that, like that allowed you to
Mhm.
be like, I don't see people like myself represented. I don't
Mhm.
see what I hope would be like the future, and what the future would look like represented here. And
Yes,
hey, this is what I'm going to do about it, which is definitely something we see quite a bit. We see it
absolutely.
quite a bit, like especially with investors in the Invest Together programs who come
Mhm.
in and looking to support these women-led ventures.
Yeah.
To an extent, it might skew towards like women, end up having more women investors because like
Mhm.
it's more alarming to them. But that's not to say that like men are not included,
Yeah.
non-binary folks are not included. Pretty much like everyone is should be. and can be a
Uh-huh.
part of, like, being this
Yeah.
change and this new movement.
Yeah.
And so then I'm looking at the women-led IIC now Invest Together. What would you say were some of the key highlights of your experience, and
Mhm.
how the program has been beneficial?
Okay, I'll answer that rapid fire, but I also wanted to touch on, what you just said. I think
Yes.
if I go back to also what influenced me to join, one of the standout features for me was how accessible and non-intimidating it made it for a woman who does not have a financial background to learn about the investment process. Women are typically underrepresented in finance and in VC in general. And so for me, it was a really non-intimidating way. And the other part is that I'm also a white woman. So women that look like me are probably more represented than other women or non-binary founders. And so what I also loved about the program was I saw the effort that Spring put into curating both investors and founders who are from intersectionally diverse backgrounds, not just gender diversity. That was super important to me. And they made it very accessible. So the program fees and the minimum investment required made it accessible for people who also might have restraints. Like the gender pay gap is a real thing. And so knowing that, it was an accessible way to get involved in investment also was something that was super important for me. In terms of the key highlights, what I loved about the program was the quality of the education. I learned so much about the due diligence process. Again, something I would not have had exposure to in, my line of work in this in-depth of a way, and has, paid off tenfold in terms of what I'm able to bring to the table in my work. And similarly, the network, I have kept in touch with a number of the other investors and actually gotten involved with them in non-for-profit and mentorship and advisory capacities after the program. So the networking is an incredible opportunity. The other thing that's sort of unexpected was it also changed my consumer behavior. So what I learned through the process has also changed how I use my spending power, and looking to invest in like companies or consumer products that align with my values. I do research now in ways that I didn't before. I feel like I'm a more informed consumer, and so I think the outcome of the participation is that we're also making a dent in breaking down a broader systemic issue, which really centers around how much spending power women have and our ability to channel some of that spending power in social impact and female founded ventures or non-binary founded ventures.
After so many years of, like, running these programs, I feel like each time someone shares something like new, that was a takeaway. And one thing I think that, like, I've not seen articulated before is that change in, like, your own, like, consumer, like, habits, right? And I think
Mhm.
it's testament to, like, the domino effect, because sometimes folks are like, oh, this is too much of a issue, or this is the way the cookie crumbles, or ceteris paribus, this
Mhm.
is the way things are. But no, it needn't be. And, like, different initiatives over time will then have kind
Mhm.
of like that pooled effect. So that's like a really, really interesting, like, offset of your experience, but I very, very encouraging, I would say, very, very encouraging to see. So thank you so much for sharing
Yeah.
that. And so, of course, you invested together with the rest of the investor cohort into the winner vessel.
Mhm.
How has your interaction with them looked like after the program? I know they send, like, newsletters. Yeah, how has that
Mhm.
looked like, either with them, any other founders, or even how it's impacted the way you interact with other founders in your portfolio?
Absolutely. So, Vessel and the founder Sydney has been an incredible decision and investment from my perspective. I think what's really important is that you're investing in a founder. You're not also, you're also investing in their company, but you really are investing in a founder and in their vision and in their dream and their ability to execute on something. So, I think that's a really important takeaway from the program is they really encourage you to get to know the person behind the company. And Sydney is incredible. She's an absolute genius. She sends us really thoughtful investor summaries on how things are going, progression that they're making in the company. She's very communicative. I've also been able to lean in and support her in some of, from based on my subject matter expertise in HR and people and culture, I've been able to provide some advisory. And I think that's really important, is knowing that a lot of times founders also just need support and they want an investor group that's able to offer some expertise or guidance. And so if you are looking for an ability to really form a relationship and be able to contribute to a company beyond just your dollars and cents, that is absolutely an option. Similarly, we also, one of our runners up was another company called Scotiaderm. And we were so impressed with them that a few of us also decided to form a separate investment for that as well. And so there really is a multiplicative effect that can happen as part of taking part in this program. Is it can open up, opportunities for additional investments if that's something folks are interested in, but also to really play a deeper role in these companies should that be something that you want, and or creating a community around you of investors who care about the same things. And that sort of has all of these spin-off impacts as well. So I've remained really deeply connected with a bunch of investors, as I mentioned, through nonprofit work, mentorship, advisory support as well.
Oh man, y'all should see me. I'm smiling like a fool. Like, wow, look at all these great things. I mean, I know it like it's by design, it's like
Mhm.
intentional by design, but then also like,
Mhm.
yeah, to hear someone like speak on it, I'm like, okay, cool. We
Yeah.
like actually it can play out in real life. But yeah,
Mhm.
many times investors, like, we think monetary capital, right? But like I always say,
Mhm.
capital can look like many things. In this case, like your expertise is also a form of like capital that's
Mhm.
elevating this venture, that's elevating Sydney, this winner. And like ultimately you also ended up making like
Yeah.
an additional investment. So that's like
Mhm.
also helping these people as well. And then all of that then grounded in that power of like community and networks, which at the end of the day, it's kind of that like hashtag teamwork makes the dream work. That's how we kind of move the dial
Mhm.
in changing the circumstances for women-led ventures. So thank you so much for sharing that. And so
Absolutely.
then now to my last question, because I have kept you here long enough. Looking back at the program, what would you recommend to participants coming in to get the most out of it?
Yes. So for me, I spoke to this, but I really would underscore that people really reflect on the why. Why do you want to join a program like this? For me, um, I wanted to really advance my own learning in an area that I felt very underconfident in, which was the financial and investment, due diligence side of the house, which I see a lot of in my job, but I, feel not as strong or like I have as much expertise as others in that area. And so I treated it like a learning opportunity. I approached it the way I would as if I was taking a course at a university. I really committed the time and space to really participate fully in the learning. It is a time commitment and you get what you put into it. So if you are not creating the right time to put into learning, you're probably not going to get as rich of an experience for yourself. So I really just recommend that you really think about putting in the effort and energy in order to reap the maximum benefits from it. And I would say that that's probably the biggest thing, is just, you're going to get an incredible learning experience. Investment is always risky, but if you look at this as an investment in yourself, not just an investment in a business that will potentially bring returns for you, that is always money well spent, right? Like activating that growth mindset, that's the way we evolve and grow as a society. And that's the way I would encourage anyone to look at this opportunity, as an investment in yourself.
Not just an investment, but an investment in yourself.
Mhm.
Gems. See, I told you all there was gonna be gems here. I think that's an amazing framing. Couldn't have said it better myself. And even
Mhm.
like, getting in what I mean, getting out what you put in. Definitely agree. Many times the folks who've had like the most rewarding experience are the people who really fully delved into it, jived with what it was, participated in those like, calls, engaged with the founders, did the DD, like, jumped both feet in, stand on business, know what we came here to do 100%. And I'm so happy to hear that that was your experience, and hopeful that it will be the experience for many other people to come. And so that was kind of like my last question. But like before we close, I wanted to see if you had like, maybe like a quick parting shot, a TLDR. If one thing stayed with you today, this is what it would be, any or all the above.
Yes. I mean, this is going to sound super cheesy, but I watched The Lorax with my 6-year-old daughter the other day, and I was brought to tears because at the end, it reminded me of that quote that things change when one person cares and one person cares to do something different. And so this is really an opportunity for people who do care deeply to have an incredible impact. Again, like I said, not only on yourself and your own learning and growth, but on the ability to change the face of entrepreneurship, which is something we desperately need to do to create a more equitable world moving forward. So it is absolutely worth your time. I couldn't recommend participation in this program, you know, highly enough.
And there you have it. I'm not going to even try to paraphrase, rephrase, reiterate. You heard it here, and you heard it here first. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your time and for telling us a little bit more about what your experience has been. We appreciate having you in this program, having you in the Spring community, and we really are appreciative for you wanting to champion women-led and non-binary led purpose-driven ventures. We're
Mhm.
really part of that movement and trying to
Mhm.
really be the change that we want to see. So thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm going to hop into a little bit of extra information, but feel free. Lol, I didn't even ask you this before, but I'm going to volunteer you. Um, Feel free to connect with Natalie on LinkedIn to hear a little bit more about her journey.
Mhm.
Engage with her insofar as her main work, or engage with her as we continue to build out a community of impact and values driven investors. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nema.
A quick recap. I'm just going to give some key information on the program, just to ensure that you have all the information that you need. I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And so, as you can see here, if you're a visual learner, I'm a visual learner. I wanted to just showcase what the timeline looked like. Like I said, we've carefully designed a process augmented by learning, meeting investors, pitching to investors, and conducting DD. And so, after going through the key sessions with the investors and the founders, and learning more about what to expect in the investment process, the cohort will be distilled from a top 15 down to a top 5. And then this will culminate in a winner walking away with a prize. As mentioned, there may be one direct investment, but there are many winners in the program. And there are many places where you can utilize the perks of the program, as everyone participating is really committed to the same vision of advancing the work of women-led ventures. And so some key important dates. One, application deadline. This is marked as rolling until January 15th. And so we'll be continuing to fill the cohort. And so I'd encourage you to apply sooner rather than later. If we fill the cohort before Jan 15th, we will wrap up applications. However, these will be live until Jan 15th or until when the cohort is closed, whichever comes first. As well, Jan 16th, then we'll have the top 15 companies announced in advance, in preparation for the investor orientation session. And so the investor orientation session will be happening on Feb 5th. You'll have an opportunity to meet the founders on Feb 12th. And then on March 5th, there'll be a top 15 pitch event and Q&A with the companies. Finally, on March 12th, we'll have the DD begin after the top 5 finalists have been selected. And on April 7th, we have the program finale and winner announcement. Whoop, whoop, what a time to be alive. So exciting. And so we've covered the structure of the program. Now let's answer the big question. Who is the program for, and is this the right one for you? If any of these resonate with you, then you are in the right place. If you're an accredited investor just starting your journey in impact investing or already exploring purpose-led ventures, if you're a curious newcomer to startup investing who wants to learn the ropes or actively seek deal flow, for those refining their investment thesis, this is the perfect opportunity to explore what it truly means to invest with an environmental or social impact lens while learning from a dynamic group setting. Or If you're a founder, this program gives you an invaluable opportunity to understand how investors think and what drives their decisions. As well, for fund managers, entrepreneurs, change makers, including recent graduates tackling complex challenges, this program will also provide you an ideal platform to explore impactful investment strategies. And ultimately, beyond gaining expertise, this program offers a vibrant community and a chance to build meaningful connections. Quick insight into who other companies are. So many times people are like, okay, fine, like I'm in, but I would really like to understand who are these top 15 to top 5 to a winner. So one, they need to be based in Canada. Two, they must be focused on innovative and environmental and or social impact driven initiatives that they can articulate clearly, including relating it to UN SDGs around, food security, responsible agriculture, health and well-being, reduced inequalities, to mention a few. They'll come from a variety of sectors, with our last winners having varied, from health tech to biotech to everything in between. And so for this program, we'll be considering applicants in the pre-seed to seed stages, looking to raise between 250,000 to 5 million, like on average. And a very important aspect for us is having applicants that have a strong and diverse team. As this is a program for women-led ventures, the companies will need to be women-led, characterized as having a woman or non-binary person with significant ownership of the business. So that's ideally 50% or more, with a minimum of 33% ownership. A woman or non-binary person holds the title of CEO, CTO, or COO. A woman or non-binary person who conducts a majority of the fundraising initiatives of the company. And then finally, we'll also really be welcoming applications from women or non-binary people from BIPOC communities. And so that's the key on the company selected. But let me give you a quick, investment overview. How does the investment actually work? So at the end of the program, there will be minimum roughly 100,000 invested into one winning company. The exact amount will depend on the final investor commitments, but our past winners have walked away with amounts above 200,000 against this initial target. The investment will be made through an SPV, also called a special purpose vehicle, and that will be created and funded by the investors in the cohort. The terms will be set on an individual company basis, meaning the founders will be responsible for this, and then this will be evaluated by the investors and or further negotiated, where applicable during the due diligence process. For this, Spring does not carry on the investment, so 100% of the returns will be allocated to investors. The SPV will withhold 5,000 of the final investment committed for a lifetime of corporate expenses, such as accounting, legal fees, anything that's really associated with running the investment vehicle. And then finally, there is an opportunity for co-investment by the BDC Thrive Lab, given that Spring is a proud co-investment partner, and this is going to be contingent on due diligence by the Thrive Lab. Now, that was a lot. I'm going to pause for 2 seconds to see if there are any questions from the audience before I hit you with some FAQs. And I know I'm going fairly quickly. A lot of this information is covered in the program packs. And this is supposed to be kind of like, lightning rounds so that I can get through the most amount of information. But please, 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 I do welcome you to connect with us or email me at nema@spring.is for any additional questions, information, insights, comments, concerns, all the above. And so then looking at some of our frequently asked questions that we've had before. Is the whole program virtual, and what is the time commitment? So the program is fully virtual. So just the way I tuned in right now, you can tune in from wherever. As the program has a national focus, we will welcome both founders and investors from all regions across the country. We do social events sprinkled like throughout the program in major cities such as Vancouver and Toronto and other cities, depending on the composition of the investor cohort. The weekly sessions themselves take place every Wednesday for 2 hours from 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific, starting February 5th, 2025. And so that's typically the commitment. However, as you begin due diligence, you can plan for additional time nearing the end of the program when you're completing the investment memos that will ultimately help decide who the winner of the investment is. What are the program costs? So we have an early bird discount of 350 until December 13th, after which the regular price for the program is 500 per investor. However, if you are joining with a friend, we do have a 2-for-1 deal, which we call the Investy Bestie. And so for 500, you and your investor friend can participate. And so then, who is classified as an accredited investor? Accreditation itself, in general, is a self declaration process. However, a typical metric or a typical way that accreditation is gauged is through income. So for any individual who has a before tax income of over 200,000 for at least for the last 2 years at least, or a household income or combined with a spouse of up to 300,000 would be classified as an accredited investor. Then the other question, does Spring take an observer's seat? No. So at Spring, we're catalysts of the investment process and remain as administrative as possible, as we simply facilitate the investment process for the investors and for the finders. There is a potential possibility for investors in the cohort to do this. However, that depends on the round and if it's actually required. The same applies to advisor roles, and all of this is at the discretion of the founder. Have we had any exits from past winners? So, some context for you. Spring has delivered 17 of these challenges to date. And with our target applicants being earlier stage companies more focused on scaling, there have not yet been any exits as of now. With that said, this is 100% not unusual. And a majority of the companies have gone to raise again at a higher valuation. And so, one metric to see the success of the portfolio is the markup on valuations. And we have seen, on average, a 2.1x markup, with some companies, of course, lower and some companies higher on this spectrum. These markups, though, are a good sign as they show the company's ability to provide value creation, which can be from a combination of, revenue, new IP, and or strategic partnerships. Bear with me now. Three last questions, actually, two last questions. Can you invest in a different company in addition to the winner? The answer is yes. And Natalie touched on this a little bit, where they also invested in Scotiaderm. So, yeah, you can invest directly in any company. If there is adequate demand from the cohort to make an investment in a second company, Spring may also be able to offer an SPV structure. Like I said, most recently, one of the other finalists in the Summer Women Led program also raised over 100,000 from investors in the cohort and in Spring Collective, which I mentioned is our Impact Angel network. This is one of the reasons that we say, there are many winners, not just the one. And so, how is the winning company selected? So, this selection is done by investors in the cohort after an extensive due diligence process. So, the investor cohort distills the top 15 companies down to 5 companies after reviewing their pitch materials and conducting Q&A with the founders. Then they will conduct due diligence and distill these further from 5 companies to 1 winner. This happens by majority vote. And the winning company is usually determined by at least 50% of the votes being casted towards them. In some cases, this requires, a revote if there's a tie, but TLDR, Spring has no say in this and simply facilitates this process. And now, this has been a lot of information. Really appreciate you for your time. Lots of gabbing, but I'm a very big fan of the TLDR. And so, because this was quick and a lot, here is a TLDR on why to join us like yesterday. Pre-vetted deal flow into Impact Ventures, a network of like-minded investors and founders, and hands-on in experiential learning with experts in the impact investing space. And finally, an actual investment. It's a win-win-win-win. What's not to love? And so with that, I will pause once more. I don't see any questions, but like I said, you can hit me up directly. Um, I will now bid you adieu as I come to our close, and I do look very forward to hosting you soon. Once again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to contact myself, Nema at spring.is, our team via email or LinkedIn at any time. The webpage also has all the details you need on the program pack to ensure you're set and ready to apply. I definitely look forward to meeting, chatting, and potentially hosting you. In the meantime, I wish you an amazing, magical Wednesday afternoon, and we will connect on the